We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
All right, hey, welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300. We are here, just a quick reminder, every single Monday from 3 to 4. We talk about current real estate trends, what the market's doing. We talk a little bit of finance, but we try to keep you in the know. Christian and I both are down in the trenches.
Yep.
Every single day.
All day.
All day. And we like to bring that back to you, our listeners, our past clients. And so appreciate you listening in today.
Yeah. So today we are talking about being a real estate agent in the Seattle area. Wow. And if it's tough or if it's easy or what. So I brought in a newer Seattle real estate agent, Mr. Les Cutting. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Awesome.
We're doing awesome, and I'm glad that you were able to come in today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Les is a former DJ, former radio show host.
Listen to his voice.
I know.
He
it's
might-
like smooth.
Very smooth.
I can't do that at all. I'm like chipmunk over here.
No,
and
you have a
he's
good.
like,
I told you when we first started the show. You have a great real estate voice. Les, on the other hand, you
got
do.
this.
You know,
dude.
back in the day, the dream was to be a late night R&B.
Mhm.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's a smooth late night Les. That was
Late night with Les.
There you go. Now you're listing with Les.
now it's list with Les. Right,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
right.
So Les Cutting is a real estate agent here in Seattle. He's been an agent for a little over a year at this point. And I've checked his numbers. He's legit. He's
Yeah.
actually doing a really good job for a newer
Yeah.
agent. And now, by the way, we are on Facebook Live as well right now.
What's up?
Doing another one.
Yep.
We want to bring him in today because we want to discuss the process of actually starting a career in real estate and his experience in doing so that we can kind of explain to people, you know, what the process is like realistically, not it's super easy, anyone can do it, that kind of thing. So, Les, thanks again for coming in. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us what drew you to this job. What made you to decide to become a real estate agent?
A lot of things. So I grew up kind of all over the place. You know, Toronto, moving to LA. Then summers I'd go to Jamaica. My parents are from Jamaica. Then I'd go to Miami, see my other family, New York, just all over the place. So I was always seeing different kinds of architecture, different types of real estate. And I was like, every city I'd go to, I'd like, oh, I want to live there.
Yeah.
I want to live there. I want to live there. So in fast forward in high school, I had a buddy, came from a wealthy family, and he invited me over to his home in Calabasas, which is in LA, just outside of LA. And his house is set up where it's two houses on one lot. So one house here, main house, and then there's another house, and there's a sky bridge connecting it.
Oh, wow.
The whole left side of that house, the house on the left, was his.
Wow.
He's
That's
like
crazy.
the only child, 16 years old at the time.
And he has his own house.
His own house, full arcade, everything. And I'm like,
Jeez.
I need to live here. I need to do this. So that was kind of it early on, you know, that got me interested in real estate.
So you just like the house aspect,
Just the house
actual.
aspect of it, you know. And then back in the day, I don't know, I'm going to date myself here. MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
going back to that, watching all the celebrities and what they have, I'm like, okay, how do I get to that? How do I get a house like that? You know?
Yeah. And instead of buying one, now you just get to look at them and sell them.
Exactly.
And then eventually you get to buy one.
Right. That's the plan. That's the plan.
So cool. Okay. So let's talk about how kind of simple it is to become an agent, to actually get the license, and how that whole process works. So
Right.
explain. So do you have to, I know the answer, but I'm going to set you up. Do
Okay.
you have to take classes in order to actually become a real estate agent?
Absolutely. So in Washington State, it's 60 clock hours, and then I think 30 hours for the law side of it. So 90 hours total. And then after that, you go and take your test. I think it's a 2-hour test and about 140 questions, or a little more than that, somewhere around there. But fairly simple stuff. You can do it online, or you can actually take the class. I went in and took the class because, I mean, I can sit at a computer screen for an hour and look at it
And
then
not know.
forget everything
Exactly.
that I just read.
I recommend people go in
Right.
and do it in person as well, because you actually get a lot more out of it, in my opinion.
Right. And the same thing is I look at it, you're in a people person, or people
Business.
job, business,
Yeah.
right? So interacting with the teacher, the other students, I think it's an easier way to remember the information because it's a lot of information. When I first got into business, they say it's like drinking from a fire hose, and that's the best analogy for this business.
Yeah. There's a lot of info coming right at you right away, from following the law,
right,
from filling out the forms correctly,
right,
from being able to explain the forms,
right,
and then a ton after that. But that's just the super duper basics. So I guess we kind of went over this. So there's lots of different ways to actually take the classes. So you can do it in person. You can do it online.
Right.
Anyone can Google it and figure out where they're at. Rockwell is a big one.
Right.
Micah is another one, which is up north in Linwood, I think. And I think they have a place in Kent or somewhere too, somewhere down south.
Right.
So that's kind of how you can do the classes. So the next step after you take the classes, you take the test, you pass the test. The next step from there is picking a brokerage to work at. And some of the things that you need to consider, and I'm going to ask you a question about this too in a second, but some of the things that you need to consider when you're picking a brokerage, and tell me how you did it. I know how I did it, but how did you pick your brokerage? Did you go, okay, well, I want to talk to all these places because I know their names, or was it something else?
So at the time, I was going through ads and stuff, kind of looking, because brokerages, they post ads saying, oh, new agent, we'll train you, that type of stuff.
Yep.
So I think I was interviewing brokerages before I even took the test. So I kind of went around and I was interviewing people, and at the end of the day, in my opinion, some of them just want agents in the office, and you can tell that. So I could tell what kind of person they were or what kind of brokerage they would be. Some of them was like, okay, you're gonna get in here and that's it.
Yeah.
And
that's the end of the story.
Exactly.
You have a desk and that's it.
There's some people who are like, okay, well, we have this process and this is what's going to happen. We're going to do these training courses and we're going to help you to really launch your career. And that's really good too. And then, another thing for me, I like the personal side of it. You know what I mean? Do you really genuinely care about my well-being? There's some people who pretend they do. And when you get in, it's like, not really.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's a toss-up. You know what I mean? And that's how I pick. Like I can tell. I feel like I can connect with people on a certain level, and I can kind of tell what kind of person they are. So that's how I kind of picked it. For me, that's how it works.
So other things that some other people, and I mean, the big initial first thought too is cost.
Right.
So, and that's another factor that you have to weigh.
Right.
So in order to work at an office,
right,
you have to pay a desk fee every single month. And then on top of that, you have to pay a split on your commission. So anytime you make money, you got to pay a portion of that to that office.
Brokerage gets paid first before you get paid.
Exactly. And taxes aren't taken out of all that stuff.
Exactly.
So you also, once you actually get your check, you got to take about a quarter of that, put it aside in a separate account.
Right.
Because you're going to have to pay taxes on that.
Quarter? What world are you living in?
Well, I'm living in a world where I actually like to have
4-0.
enough.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
Love to have a quarter.
So the other thing that people have to look at for each office is what do they actually give you? And you kind of talked about it a little. You touched on it. And it's more of, it's the people side. Are they genuine? Do they really care about people?
Right.
Do they really want to help people?
Right.
Or do they just want your desk fee? And if you ever sell a house, they want to make money off of that too, off your split. On top of that, there's trainings. There's some offices give people leads or names or whatever, and you got to cold call them or however they generate business.
Here's a list. Call these, but I'm not going to train you on cold calling or what you need to say. Here's a script. God, yeah.
Right.
And that's par for the course, though, right?
That is pretty par for the course.
And I can't stress enough how important your education is in this business because even the year I've been in it, it's changed a lot. And it's crazy. It changes every single day. No transaction's ever going to be the same.
No.
They're always going to be different. Everybody has different needs. So it's not like you can take the test and it's like, okay, I'm good now. I know everything. It's no. It's
you've
not
barely
even like
scratched
that.
the surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've passed a test.
Exactly.
Good job.
A test that makes you no money.
Yeah.
So after you look at what the office provides you, either that's education, leads, personal guidance, then you got to look at, do they have some sort of reputation or a brand? Are you associating yourself with that?
Right.
And does that make a big deal to you or not? And for some people that does. For some people it doesn't do anything.
Right.
I found that, this is just for me, coming from a very small office that no one knows about, people don't care. They
Right.
really don't care about the office name.
Right.
They know me, and they know that I'm going to treat them well, and that's more what they care about.
Right.
So that's just my take on that, but everybody has a different take.
I think it varies from market to market too.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Seattle, and we kind of talked about this a couple days ago. People are very smart in Seattle, and they can sense BS from a mile away.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So they want the person who knows their stuff. And Dan touched on this in segment 1. They don't want the part timer who's doing hair and it's like, oh, I just do this on the side.
Yeah.
Because if you're really serious about this, it's not something you're doing on the side.
You can't.
You can't. It's not
can't.
possible. It's a full-time gig.
And then some.
Yeah. Exactly.
The fourth thing that you got to look for is your workspace or your location of your office.
Right.
That said, you can also do this somewhat virtually. I mean, not like you can be in different cities or different countries, but you don't have to be sitting in an office all day, every day. You can, and you can actually learn a lot. That's what at the beginning when I started out, over 11 years ago, I sat there and I just soaked up as much as I could, just sitting there listening to other agents talk and how they spoke to their clients, how they spoke to each other, how they spoke to other agents, how they negotiated, and having that backbone where I could bounce ideas off of them. That was huge.
Yeah.
I learned more doing that, and that's how my education went from zero to probably, and I used to say this, when I was like 3 years in the business, I probably knew more at 3 years in the business than a lot of people, a lot of agents knew that were in the business for 10 plus years, just because of the people I surrounded myself with and the learning and knowledge I gleaned off of them.
Right.
So, and then the last one is kind of what kind of support is involved, what kind of administrative support, what kind of marketing support, what else is involved?
I mean, it goes back to depends on how it's structured. So if you're a solo agent, a lot of times you have to rely on yourself to do all this stuff, coordinating your own your deals, making sure your timelines are in line with the contract, coordinating with escrow. You know, if you're on a team for the most part, they already have like a transaction coordinator, somebody in the background, coordinating all that type of stuff for you.
Yep. So all those factors factor into all this stuff. So it's a big deal. We're going to come back. We got a whole lot more to talk about on this subject of becoming a real estate agent. So stay tuned for more Seattle Real Estate Radio after the break.
Stay tuned. There's more Seattle Real Estate Radio coming up here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. 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 We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. We are here with Mr. Les Cuttings, who is a Seattle real estate agent here. Same with me. We're both Seattle real estate agents, except he is just slightly newer in the business than I am. And the reason why we have him on today is because we want to go over the process of what it actually takes to become a real estate agent and, like, realistically, how hard is it?
Well, I mean, how great is this show? I mean, so we're obviously streaming live on Facebook. So, hey, Facebook, Les Cutting, Christian Nossum, two phenomenal real estate brokers here in the Seattle marketplace. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. My name is Dan Keller, mortgage advisor at New American Funding. MLO number 115349. You should know that by heart by now.
I probably do. If I started saying it, it would probably come out correctly.
Here's the thing. This is powerful. We talked about this before the show. Anytime the real estate market gets hot. I mean, I've been in the mortgage industry since 2008. I got in the worst time possible. It was at the all-time low. Nobody was selling homes. Very few people were buying homes. Rates were at 6.25%, so very few people were refinancing homes. And I've seen it two times. Once in about, 2013-ish, when it started to come back, people started to get into business. Now,
meaning real estate agents.
And I'm seeing on Facebook now that so-and-so just got her license or he just got his license, and I'm going to sell real estate now, and I used to be a car mechanic, or I used to cut hair, or I used to do this or that, whatever it may be. And great choice in regards to changing a profession if you change professions. And so we're not talking about maybe doing this on the side. We're talking about how to commit, how to become a real estate agent, how to be successful at it, how to build the business. So we've got Les, who's a superstar. He's a little over a year in the business.
Over a year, yeah.
We've got Christian, who's 11 plus years in the business. I've had the opportunity to work with you over the last 5 or 6 years. You do a ton of volume in the Seattle marketplace. You do it right. I've had an opportunity to work with you, Les. You're doing great volume. You're doing it right. So let's bring these two worlds together. So what we've talked about so far is education. We also talked about kind of the barrier of entry is pretty darn low to get into real estate.
Yeah. Way too low.
Way too low. There's very
it is
little.
what it is.
Yeah, there's very little training. There's very little expectations in regards to the consumer. So there's no surprise that what were you saying that in regards to the stats?
Yeah, top 1% of agents in the country sell
two homes a month.
Average, yeah.
Average 2 home sales a month. And so what we've talked about thus far is the education process for becoming a real estate agent, taking the test, the state exam, right? Aligning with a brokerage is next. The brokerage will offer some sort of training or plan, and then at that point, you're ready to sell, whether you're on a team, whether you're independent, whether you're in a call center. They call it what? Inside sales. So here we are with Les. Les is he's been on a team. He's now independent. We're at the point now where you're selling and you're getting paid. So let's talk about money. Commissions. Everybody gets into real estate because you guys get 3% commission.
Man, you make
and
so
that's
much
a ton of
money.
money. And that's kind of why I'm here. I'm the businessman. I'm the numbers guy.
You're the money guy.
The money guy. We'll get to this in a minute, but let's talk commission. So how are real estate agents paid?
So we are paid in 100% commission.
Boom. 100% commission.
100% commission.
No taxes taken out of that?
None.
None.
None whatsoever. So
Yeah.
you gotta set it
So
aside
what are you set aside 5% or 10% of your gross commission to pay taxes?
30.
30%.
Yeah.
Smart guy right there. It's very smart. Set aside a third. Okay, good. So you're paid 100% commission.
Right.
Tell me more about commissions. What's the standard?
All right. So it's typically 6% total sales price.
Okay.
And then that's split 50-50 between the selling and the listing agent.
Okay.
I want to touch on this. A lot of people are like, "Oh, real estate agents make this much money, a bunch of money." Like, but we touch on it. We got to take our own taxes out. Half that goes into business expenses. So whatever's left, is what we truly net at the
And
end
then
of the process.
Sometimes you kind of want health insurance and
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Right.
important, and that's not included in any of that.
Marketing.
And
Yep.
Right.
the marketing, and then you got to buy your own business cards and open house signs and all that stuff, and everything adds up.
And you're not necessarily 100%. So not 100% of that money comes to you. Typically, there's a split. Talk to us about splits.
So you have your brokerage split.
You made a good point in the first episode, in the first segment. Brokers get paid. The
brokerage
brokers
brokerage gets paid first before you even get your split.
Yeah.
Then you get paid.
Okay.
And then usually there's kind of like a franchise fee. So depending on what it is, you may have to pay until you get a certain point. Then you may get 100% of your commission. It really depends on your brokerage and how it's made up.
Yeah, so it can go from 50% you're split in half to there's some that do a small fee and you don't even take a percentage out.
Right.
You get nothing for working there either, though.
So there's multiple ways, but
Yeah.
bottom line, at some point, you're splitting part of that. So let's say your commission is $15,000, for example. You're not getting that $15,000. Maybe you may get, let's say, for example, $13,000 of it. Then it's up to you to pay your marketing and pay your taxes and all that good stuff.
Right.
Okay, so here's a bigger, I guess, a piggyback question to that. You don't just meet a client and get paid a couple days or a couple weeks.
Oh, no.
Right after that.
Oh, no. And for the people who aren't people,
Yeah.
this is a people person business. So you have to be personable because, this is a very emotional time for these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether they're selling their house. So if someone's selling their house, they've have history there. They've been there forever. So they're emotionally attached to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if you're a buyer, it's like, or first-time buyers, for example, oh, my God, I've never purchased a home before. What am I doing?
Yeah.
This is a big purchase. So you kind of have to be that almost like a therapist in a way.
Yeah.
And you got to be the middleman to kind of calm them down and hold their hand and let them know that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And you got to be on top of it. Because if you're not on top of it, like you said, this is the biggest financial decision in their life.
Yeah.
So you're playing with a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money's on the
I've
table.
talked to a lot of people before that are just like, I don't need a real estate agent. I'm just going to do for sale by owner. And I
Right.
say, listen, you do need a real estate agent, because here's the thing. A good real estate agent is going to know real estate law.
Right.
They're going to understand how to deal with different emotions from different clients. They're
Right.
going to understand personality types and
Right.
profiling. And bigger than that, they're going to be great at sales. And what
Right.
people don't realize is a great sales professional isn't going to sell somebody a product they don't stand behind. So you're not going to sell
Exactly.
somebody a house. And I've seen Christian do this numerous times in Seattle. You actually did this to a $1.5 million home where you really wanted to sell that home. But you knew it was going to cause your clients problems down the road, cost them a bunch of money, and you pulled out of that deal.
Yeah, we told them not to buy
Told
it.
them not to buy it. Yeah, and you
do
told
that.
them,
I tell people
Yep.
not to buy houses more than I tell them
Yep.
to buy a house.
Yep.
Right.
That's just the way it is, because you don't want them to buy a crappy house, because one, it's going to look bad on you.
Right.
Two, it's going to look bad on them. Three, they're going to have to spend a lot of money to fix up that house and
Right.
deal with the issues. So
Yeah. So selling's a big part of that. And what I've seen just by working with a lot of real estate professionals, you don't get a ton of sales training, correct? Yes?
Not
No?
at
Like
all.
actual sales. Like, hey,
Like zero.
Like, hey, I'm Mr. Seller. I'm interviewing Christian, and I'm going to interview you. How are you going to beat him? So you don't get a ton of
No,
training on that, like
not
how to
at all.
close, right?
Right.
Closing techniques.
Right, not at all. And for me, it's just experience. It's learning, and I was fortunate enough to come from a sales background, so I kind of had a foundation there. So it made it a bit easier for me. So like we said, somebody who's coming from working at the mall and coming into real estate. Well,
Yeah.
I was at a pretty big company doing sales for them, so I had a foundation. So I feel sales is pretty much the same across the board. But I was able to take those skills and bring it to real estate, and that helped me out tremendously.
And then you align with, great guys like Grant Cardone. You read
Right,
books. There's so
right.
many great books out there
Right.
on sales training, and then
Right.
apply it to real estate
Right.
sales.
Like my education, I invest in myself. I do not. If it's something that's good for me and I know it's going to make me better down the line, I will pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I will pay for
All
it
day.
every day of the week.
Well, and I mean, it's no doubt that you're 1.5 years into the industry and you're having success. Les, you pour into your growth and your education. You're reading. You're constantly reading. You're being coached right now, which is
Right.
huge.
Right.
We'll get to some of my tips and advice in a minute. That factors into one of them, being coached. But let's talk about you. So you started, let's say, a little over a year ago in the real estate industry. You got into the office and it was ready. I'm ready to go out and sell. How did you start generating business? What were some of the first things that you did?
Well, what I did was, since I was a little bit younger, I thought, a lot of my friends aren't selling houses or they're not ready to buy yet. So I kind of wanted to accelerate my learning a little bit. So I hopped on a team. So I was on a team. I got a stack of leads. I was just cold calling every day, hammering the phones, getting traction that way. Then I was doing, since I didn't have a lot of people selling houses or a big sphere of influence yet, what I did was for sale by owners and expireds. And I was just hammering them, prospecting
calling.
them. So one day, I wasn't getting any traction with them, and I was like, man, you know what? I'm giving up on this. And I was like, you know what? Let me just do one more call. And I made one call, and it turned it around. This is my first 2 weeks, too.
Wow.
So I turned it around, and she was like, got talking to her, figured out the problem, looked it up in the MLS. So going back to your for sale by owner and why you need a professional, she undercut her price by like $50,000. And I said, hey, you're leaving money on the table. And she gave me the whole spiel. Well, I want to sell it by myself. I don't want to pay the commission. Well, I'm like, well, look, your house, you're selling it for way less than what it's worth. So we, put it on the market, added an extra $50,000 to it, and she got that. I think she got a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they were grateful for that. You know what I mean? And it's
Even after she paid the commission, she probably still made out
Right.
much better
right.
than had she done it herself.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So and through the process, she didn't know a lot of the things that I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
So you open yourself to a lot of liabilities and possibly a lawsuit if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know the law behind real estate.
Hey, give me that thing on the counter right there. Yep. So what I'm hearing you say is this guy
Yes.
saved your bacon. Without this guy, without making that one more call,
Right.
you may have shut it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you're watching Facebook Live, mine's being held by Shannon right now. Literally, my phone has made me a ton of money.
Yeah.
This phone will make you a ton of money. You've got to be able to talk on the phone. You've got to not be. You got to be able to cold call. But you got to be able to understand how to use that sucker.
Right.
So one of the last things before we go to break, Les, talk to us about what it looks like to you meet a client and showing homes or listing them. Let's just talk about showing homes for now. For now, what's that look like? Do they ride in the back of your car with you, or how's that look?
Typically, this day and age, not too many people. So many people are all over the place, so it's kind of hard. It's like, hey, let's coordinate some time and get in my car. I have done that before, but that's usually like on the weekend or something, or usually with a relocation client who doesn't really know the area. But typically, what I do is I send them out a list of houses that meet their criteria, or they send me something that they have interest in. We put it all together. Call the owner, schedule appointments, then we get in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. We got to wrap up and go to break real quick. We're going to be back with Les, back with Christian, and you're going to want to stick around, especially Facebook Live, because we're going to talk about business planning.
Exactly. It's a big one. So stay tuned for more Seattle Real Estate Radio after the break.
Stay tuned. There's more Seattle Real Estate Radio coming up here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL. We're back with more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller.
Hello, and welcome back to Seattle Real Estate Radio here on KKOL 1300 AM. This is Mr. Dan Keller of New American Funding.
Mortgage advisor, Christian, at New American Funding. MLO number 115349. We've got to stay in compliance.
I
so we've got to talk
know.
about all
MLO
that stuff.
numbers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Hey, you like your loan officer. If you want
Yes,
me to
exactly.
stick around, I got to keep saying it.
All right, so that's Mr. Dan Keller. I am Christian Nossum with the Awesome Nossum Group at Wilson Realty, and this is Mr. Les Cutting, who is a local Seattle real estate agent just like me.
You know, so we're going to wrap up today's segment on how to get into real estate, how to start and build your real estate sales career. So we're streaming live, part 2. I want to bring everybody, all the listeners, if you missed part 1, I want to bring us all full circle to where we're at. So we've talked about the education process. We've talked about taking the exam, the test to get your license. We've talked about next aligning with a brokerage, a real estate brokerage. We've talked about the training that brokerage or team may offer. And at that point, you're now ready to sell, whether you're on your own, whether you're on a team, whether you're inside sales. And then what we kind of just closed out the last segment on was, getting paid, the commissions process, and all of that good stuff. So now where we're at, listen, nobody gets into business to break even or to lose money.
Not so much.
Not so much. And yet, the stats that you've talked to me about, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of real estate agents in this country right now that are broke, that are not selling homes, and they're making up the 98% of all agents. That don't do anything. So we're here today I'm sitting across from a super successful real estate agent. Look him up on Yelp. Just look him up online. The guy sells a ton of homes. He's very credible in the marketplace. Clients love him. I love him. And then I'm sitting next to a phenomenal person, new real estate agent. He's a little over a year less. He's doing great things. He's doing great things in his first year and a half. And so we're going to put both of these guys, we're going to combine both of their minds as to, okay, now you're starting, you've begun selling real estate. What do you do next? I'm going to start out with something that I'm super passionate about. My mortgage career literally changed past the trajectory of my career, went in a whole different direction when I learned how to create and build a business plan, but more so run my mortgage business, me as a mortgage loan officer as a business, and I did that through business planning. And so let's talk about the importance of, now you're ready to sell, how important is it? Because that 98% of agents don't have a plan. They wing it. They spray and pray. They show up every day without a plan, and they're lost. And when they get a deal, they're excited to get a deal, but because of that excitement, they're not focusing on what's most important, and that's the client's needs. They're focusing on, I got a new client, paycheck, got to get paid. So
they'll
business
do kind
planning.
of whatever it takes to do that sometimes.
So in my opinion, a business plan is, let's say that you worked for Amazon. Okay? You don't just show up to Amazon and show up. You're on a team, or you have tasks that you're supposed to do. Typically, not necessarily that day, but it's due on Friday. And
or
so
you're
building
building toward. You got a big goal, and then you got mini goals leading up to that.
and you just hit the nail on the head. Goals. So, Les, you have a goal of how many homes you want to sell in a year. You break that down to how many you need to sell a month. Right. You break that down now what you need to do weekly, and then you break that down to what you need to do daily.
And then even from there, you can go down to
hourly,
the hour.
To what you're doing. So I know certain days you do different things, but you have a plan. And most of the time, great sales professionals spend, I call it green time, but they spend the most amount of their time prospecting. So having conversations, real estate related conversations.
Right.
I walk in the door every single night. My son says, Dad, first thing he says, he's been saying this for 2 years, how many loans did you get today? And I love that because that motivates me to say, dude, I got 2.
Yeah, my kids are saying the same thing to me now. They're like, Dad, how many houses did you sell
That's
today?
it. And so you take that and you've got to work backwards from that. So for me to get 2 new loans, I have to have 10 conversations approximately, 10 mortgage related conversations with people, whether that's financial planners, real estate agents. You know, I have a web presence, so leads online. So what are some prospecting activities that you do as a real estate professional?
Time blocking. So from 9 to 11, you block that time off.
Okay.
You turn everything off, whatever it is, and you just sit there because you're in a people business, so you need people. So you need to find people. So that 2 hours calling past clients.
So from 9 to 11 on certain days of the week, you are prospecting. Who are you calling?
A lot of past clients, you know, catching up with them, seeing how they're liking their house. Is there anything I can do for them? That type of stuff. You know, got to find new people, so new clients, a lot of cold calls, and, you know, following up with whoever I need to follow up with, escrow, current clients, hey, you need to do this, our timeline's this, mortgage lenders, you know, talking to, whether it be you, Jason, whoever it is, hey, what are we good here? That type of stuff, even the listing agent too. Hey,
keeping everybody in the loop.
Exactly. Where are we at with this?
So let's say you have no clients. You're prospecting, you've already said, for sell-by owners, maybe expired. You're calling those people. You're calling business professionals, lawyers, divorce attorneys, CPAs, just introducing yourself, being a resource, correct?
Right. And, I mean, that may take a little bit longer to cultivate those relationships, but at the same time, if you have a good personality and you're meeting people, they're going to remember you, and you find a way to stay in front of these people. They will remember you when real estate related needs come up. Like I had somebody that I went to school with. I hadn't talked to them in about 5 years, and they just randomly called me. And they're like, you know, I see your stuff on Facebook or whatever it is, and they're like, hey, I have a friend moving here. Can you help her out? And that was it. And, you know, I followed up with her, you know, reconnected, sent her something, and thanked her for that. You know what I mean? So that type of stuff. You know, let people know what you do.
Okay. So new agent, you've got to prospect. You've got to call. You've got to use that phone. You've got to prospect. Fast forward 11 years. What are you doing now for lead generation?
Currently, I am so slammed.
Yeah, so you're answering your phone.
Yeah, I'm just answering my phone.
You're answering your phone. So Christian's
people
business,
are reaching out and saying, I want to work with you.
Your phone now rings organically because you've taken care of your clients, you've taken care of your past clients, and you're getting referrals. So now you've gone from a heavy prospecting business to now a business that's feeding you because you've taken great care of clients.
Yep, pretty much.
Phenomenal. You got to check out his Yelp reviews. It just makes me sick. So everybody loves Christian. So
hey, they love you too.
Okay, we got a couple minutes left. I want to talk. I want both of you guys to take over from here.
Okay.
Tips: young real estate agents, new real estate agents, people that are thinking about getting into real estate or watching or listening. What advice, tips from today do you have for them?
Really do your
in a
research.
minute or less.
Minute or less, Les.
Okay, really do your research. Do your research on, you know, brokerages, all that type of stuff, and make sure it's a good fit for you. A tip that I would give them: don't be afraid. Don't be apprehensive. Jump in. You're going to make mistakes, but just make sure those mistakes aren't vital to you know your clients or a deal. But and get guidance. Don't be afraid to ask a more seasoned agent in your office for a little bit of help. So don't be afraid and just jump in.
Great. Just do it.
Okay, so my tip is know ahead of time that you got to be really good at a lot of different things. You have to be really good at education. You got to be a good salesman. You have to be a counselor, part-time psychologist. You have to be really a master negotiator. You have to be a master marketer. And you got to be a business owner all at the same time.
Well, you forgot your firefighter suit. You got to be able to put out fires too.
all day. There's
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
that goes into us, and you have to be an expert at
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's, another quick tip, don't forget to set aside money for paying
That's it.
your taxes.
Well,
because most people,
Yep.
especially new in the business, they don't do that.
Right.
And that IRS bill
Yep.
comes, and you're like,
Yep.
oh.
Set aside a third every single paycheck, every single
Exactly.
commission check. Listen, so if you're listening in and you are thinking about maybe getting into real estate, or if you have questions about real estate, I highly encourage you to talk to Christian. Christian is a professional. He's been doing this for a long time. Wealth of knowledge. In fact, he's one of my leading resources that I go to when I have any questions. Christian, how would somebody get out, get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, I get that question a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I actually made a page on my website. So go to awesomenosome.com/careers. That's
okay.
awesome, AWESOMENOSSUM.com/careers. And just fill out the quick form.
There you go.
And that will get the process started. That will give me some basic info about you, which will let me know what we need to do next.
Great job, Les. Attaboy.
Good job, boys.
Great job,
Thank
man.
you guys for having
All
me.
right, that's today's show. I had a blast. Thank you, Facebook Live people. It looked like we had some good comments. I was watching on my phone. So
Good stuff.
thank you, everybody. It was a great show. Stay tuned next week. I know we're going to have another good one. So, yeah, exactly. Have a great weekend.
Cool.
To contact the show or for more information, visit SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. That's SeattleRealEstateRadio.com. And be sure to tune in again next Monday at 3 for more Seattle Real Estate Radio with your hosts, Christian Nossum and Dan Keller, right here on Business Radio 1300 KKOL.